So have you had that feeling that you have worked all night long and caught nothing? Have you ever felt that way? I had that experience this past week. The bishop at the end of the year always sends out forms to pastors and deacons and retired pastors, and we are supposed to fill out a report similar to what churches fill out, their parochial report. We're supposed to tell them that we got 40 hours of continuing ed and things that have happened in our life during the year in our congregation, and ask how they might support us. So I received the email that I needed to fill out that report, and I clicked on the link. Usually, I wait to the very last minute to fill out the bishop's report. I put it on my list of things to do, and I put it off, and I put it off. But not this time. I was going to fill out that report and get it over with. So I went to the report. I spent 45 minutes filling out the report, got to the end of it, was ready to click to send it off, and then I looked back to see my report, and there was nothing there. Nothing was there. I was like, oh my gosh. I had forgotten to save each page individually, so that when I went to the next page, it just went off into space somewhere and it wasn't there. I felt like I had fished all night and caught nothing. How about you? Have you had that experience in your life? It doesn't always happen when we have human error and stupidity. It can happen whenever we're doing a really good job. I think Peter, James, and John were probably pretty good fishermen and doing a pretty good job of fishing in our gospel. But they didn't have success. They didn't have fish that they could say they had caught that night. In our lives, in our jobs, in our relationships, as we live out our lives out in the world, we can be doing a pretty good job and doing what we're supposed to be doing, but we can still come up feeling like we fished all night and produced nothing, because we feel like that we're really not making a difference. We're not getting anywhere. It's in these moments when we recognize our human limitations, when we realize how imperfect we are as human beings and incapable, that God can meet us best of all. This is exactly what happens in our gospel for today. Jesus comes and meets Peter and the others in their time when they haven't been successful, they haven't been productive, and invites them to think about their work in a whole different way. He invites them to reorient their work on the beautiful work of his kingdom. In other words, to orient their work on the love and the transforming power that Jesus came into this world to show off. It's a beautiful power to reflect to others. I had an experience of what this reorientation of work can look like. A couple weeks ago, I was out at one of the care facilities in the area visiting one of our church members. There wasn't anything unusual about that. I was there to walk with a person as they faced the challenges of their life and aging. And so we had the opportunity to share about that and talk about that and what was going on in life. As I did that, I did what I normally would do, shared some scriptures first of all, and then some prayers with that person, and we had a chance to talk about that. But as I was leaving, And I got outside the door. There was a gentleman standing outside the door painting the hallway. And he stopped me. He said, "I want to talk to you." And he stopped me and he said, "Those were some beautiful scriptures that you were sharing with that woman." I said, "Yeah, they are beautiful because they tell us that no matter what happens in life, our home is always with God, in the love of God." Then he said to me, "Do you believe in Jesus?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." I said, "Absolutely." And then he went on to say to me, he started talking about all kinds of things happening in life and in the world. And he said, all that matters is that relationship is steadfast with Christ. All these things are just fading. They are going to go away. But that relationship is steadfast. And I said, "I agree with you 100%. I love that. You have shared that with me." Then we exchanged names, and I walked away. And I said to myself on the way out the door, that is what it feels like to be evangelized by a painter. And I mean evangelized in a kind and gentle way. Now let me ask you, do you think that painter at the end of the day is counting how many walls he got painted that day? Or do you think that gentleman looks at his work more in terms of how many people he had the opportunity to speak to that day as he was painting and share about the beautiful, life-transforming love of God in Jesus Christ? I don't know about you, but having looked into his eyes and seen how sincere he was, I think he's counting the encounters he has with other people and how he might show or say something that reflects Jesus and his love to other people. This is what happens with Peter. He's out there working, and he gets the invitation to have his work reoriented. No longer does he need to think about his work as just putting food on the table and helping him keep up his home and family, but now the invitation is for him through his fishing, through what he knows well, through that dedication of doing that, through the skills that he has learned as being a fisherman, and there's a lot of skills that come with being a fisherman, he's going to take that and use that right there in that place where he lives and beyond to invite others to be a part of the transforming love of Jesus Christ. He flips his vision of how he understands his productivity. Yes, he'll be catching fish, and literally he will be catching some fish, but he will also be focused on how many people is he catching in his life work as well. What about us? We as disciples, as followers of Jesus Christ, how do we respond to the call to partner with Jesus in our daily lives? How do you think about yourself being partnered with Christ in your work, in your retirement? How do you think about being partnered with Jesus in your relationships, in your neighborhood, out there where you serve others in the community? What does it look like for you to have Jesus as your partner? What might happen if we all see Jesus as our partner? How may our production, our ability to do our work and be successful at doing it change? What might look different? I invite you to think about that for a moment. having Jesus at your side? How might that change how we listen to one another? How might having Jesus at our side as our partner change what we say to one another? How we see our gifts that we have, our real skills, and how they might not just be used to further our own lives and caring for our families, but also to help others, to improve the lives of others, to help them get a glimpse of the good news of God experientially. What might change for us? A friend of mine has talked to me in the last month or so about the writings of Brother Lawrence. I wasn't familiar with him, but I've started reading some of his writing and what he has said throughout his life. Brother Lawrence was a simple guy. He was a monk, and he was a cook. And his focus in his writing that have been recorded is on the presence of God. Some of the things that he says are like this: whether I'm praying or in the kitchen, surrounded by people who are asking me questions about things, I'm in the presence of God, doing the work of God. God has gifted me to do these things. And so he talks a lot about seeing ourselves, similar to what today's gospel talks about, partnered, connected to the big, beautiful work of God in the most mundane areas and times in our life. One of the quotes that he offers that really drives it home for me is this, though: the business of life, whatever business is for you, work, play, relationships, life out in the world, the business of life is pleasing God. A lot of people have said glorifying God, but he says the business of life is pleasing God. And then he goes on to say this: anything else is just vanity and folly. Wow, that's quite a statement. The business of life is pleasing God. That's sort of where our gospel for today leaves us, because each and every one of us has been invited to partner with Jesus, to go and, in the words of Peter's life, fish for people. Jesus would put it in our own terms for whatever we do and whatever our life is centered in. But each of us has been called to be a part of God's beautiful work in and through the mundane, simple, day-to-day things that we do. A lot of people struggle with feeling like their work matters. But the invitation that we have to partner with Jesus raises the vantage point, raises the picture for us, helps us to see how very valuable and how very beautiful our work can be, because it can be caught up in transforming the lives of others through the love of Christ, through our simple actions, through our simple words, through those things that we're doing sometimes that we don't even recognize that touch people's hearts and lives. You and I can be caught up in this beautiful work of God. Our production can change. Our understanding of even our mistakes can change, because God can take who and what we are and use it for the timeless, everlasting work of his kingdom. We're all invited to come and follow and be a part. Will I do that today and please God 24/7? Amen.